How's it going, everyone? It's Hobby from Marshall.1000. Today is December 31st, 2020, New Year's Eve 2020, and today we're going to focus on the major snow and ice threat for the eastern half of the United States, as well as a heavy rain threat with the potential of severe thunderstorms in the southeast headed into tomorrow and going into the new year. But before I begin, make sure to subscribe if you want to see more weather-related content, and make sure to turn on post notifications if you want to see even more weather-related content. So let's begin by first taking a look at this weather map I made, which gives a good representation of how much ice or how much snow or how much rain you'll receive. And obviously, we're gonna first start with the snowfall forecast, and you could see that this snow extends from pretty much the border of Texas and Mexico all the way northward throughout, impacting a lot of the Midwest states, which includes Kansas, Oklahoma, Nebraska, Iowa, and further up northward. If we take a look at my snowfall forecast more in detail, you see that the most snow is expected, oddly enough, further to the south of a lot of these Midwest states. And like I said, the reason why is because this storm is going to move very slowly right around Texas, and it's as a result of just a typical weather pattern that happens further south in the northern hemisphere, because since there's less unstable air, there's a lot less wind, there's a lot less movement in the atmosphere because there's less wind or unstable air moving a lot of that air around, and as a result, the low pressure systems and ridges move a lot slower since there isn't enough unstable air to push those ridges or those low pressure systems further to the west or to the east or wherever the case may be in the southern hemisphere. So as a result, this storm is going to move a lot slower further south and will eventually pick up speed once it encounters a little bit more unstable air, which will be enhanced by the jet stream that's moving through the United States at this point. And if we take a look at the GFS model, you're going to see that the jet stream is pretty far up north to have a major influence on how fast the storm moves, because as you can see, this as of around right now, and I want you guys to pay attention to that 540 millibar contour line, and you see that it's well up north from where all the action is, where this low pressure is. Let me show you guys the radar to show you this is where the storm is right now. I would say the 540 millibar contour line is right just around Kansas, maybe around Nebraska. So, and by the way, if you're new to this channel, what 540 millibar contour line represents is pretty much the line that separates non-freezing temperatures and freezing temperatures. So if you're north of it, the temperature is below freezing. If you're south of it, the temperature is typically above freezing. Sure, there are some variations because sometimes the lower level temperature could be different from what you see could be different from what you experience in the higher levels of the atmosphere. But for the most part, that's the typical pattern we see with this 540 millibar contour line. And when we see the 32 millibar contour line up this far up north, and and by the way, the 540 millibar contour line usually represents where the jet stream is located, because obviously the jet stream is known to separate the cold air, which is to the north of it, and the warm air that's just to the south of it. And the reason why there's a jet stream is because of that unstable air between the warm air to the south and the cold air to the north of it. So it's obvious where the jet stream is. It's right around this 540 millibar contour line, and you see the jet stream is just way too far up north to have a major influence on how fast this storm moves over the next several days, which is the primary reason why it is going to move very slowly as it moves up northward to Texas. I wouldn't say very slowly, but relatively slowly for the winter, because it's just going to be very far south from this jet stream for the jet stream to really have an influence on the speed of this storm. And it's not until later, as the storm continues to move up northward as a result of this ridge in the eastern half of the United States, it's not until a little later where we begin to see that jet stream get close enough to where the storm eventually speeds up. Let me show you guys a comparison. So this is 36 hours from now, and going forward 12 hours, you see that the storm is already in Illinois, while 36 hours ago, it was pretty much at Oklahoma. If we compare that to the next 12 hours from, let's say, right here, and then if we move forward to 18, you see that that snow is still in the same area. Most of the precipitation is still in the same area, as it's barely moved over the next 12 hours, where it pretty much moved only about several hundred miles, which may seem like a lot, but compared to what we're going to see later in terms of movement, you see that storm's moving a lot slower in Texas, which shows that there's going to be a lot more snow in Texas as a result of that. And in terms of the total snowfall accumulation, like I said, just north of it, like I said, the snowfall accumulation will be lighter because the storm will move a little faster. So the locations more up northward won't experience as much time under the snowfall, which means there's going to be lighter snowfall accumulation for a lot of you guys, which is definitely good news, especially for the Great Lakes region, which just got impacted by a snowstorm that dumped nearly a foot of snow in many areas. So it's good to see that we're not going to get as much snow as, let's say, southern Texas. However, still 3 to 6 to maybe 1 to 3 could be added on to what you've already seen throughout the Midwest and Iowa. So keep that in mind, because up to 3 inches could still cause havoc on the roads. And I want you guys to keep that in mind headed into the new year, because I'm sure a lot of people travel. You might be getting back from your holiday vacation, or planning a family reunion or something for New Year's. You might want to have second thoughts with a snowstorm that could dump 3 inches of snow and could cause havoc along the roads. Now, in terms of the ice accumulation, as you can see here, this is my current map where you see the pink. This is my total ice accumulation I expect from this storm. And you see that the worst of the ice I expected to be primarily in Missouri. I almost said New Jersey, but Missouri, where St. Louis will be in pretty much in the pinpoint worst zone from this storm, and it's gonna get just the worst hit from, as I expect, an extreme ice threat, where I think up to an inch of ice is possible. Now, some of you might be thinking that, oh, an inch of ice, that's nothing, but guys, you need to realize that ice isn't snowfall, where snowfall has a lot has a lot more friction. Ice has a lot less friction. It's a lot more heavy than snow, and it could cause much more damage, and could be much more deadlier, much more dangerous on the roads. And so an inch of ice, I would say, is much worse than, let's say, 2 feet of snow. I'm not even exaggerating. 1 inch of ice is just very dangerous, and that could be possible in Missouri, where I'm predicting in the extreme ice threat zone half an inch to up to an inch of ice, which is just extremely dangerous. That'll cause numerous power outages, widespread power outages, because as the ice accumulates on the branches, there's going to be there's only so much weight the branches can hold, and eventually they're going to fall. And as they fall, they're going to fall. Some will fall on power lines, which will cause just a widespread power outage throughout Missouri. And even in the lighter pinks, where I still expect a major ice threat, where I could foresee a quarter of an inch to a half an inch of ice throughout all these areas, extending from Texas all the way to Michigan, right around Detroit. And this even extends to the Northeast, where the interior Northeast is expected to be involved in the major to moderate ice threat from this storm. And let's take a look at the GFS model, which represents this ice accumulation. And as you can see, that ice will form as early as 12 hours from now, where we begin to see the GFS now changing some of that rain into freezing rain, and that will cause havoc on the roads. It's going to be just to the east of the snowfall, so watch out for that if you're just to the east, because while you might not be experiencing snowfall, the ice could still be a major factor, and in some cases even worse than what you're experiencing on the west side with snow, because like I said, I'd rather have 10 inches of snow than a half an inch of ice, because ice accumulation, even if it's small, could cause much more damage all across the all across these states. And you see that ice extends right around Oklahoma City. Missouri begins to see some ice around 30 hours from now, a little bit more than a day from now. Actually, let me show you guys the future radar, because it further exemplifies this ice, the freezing rain forming in the radar a little bit better with a little bit more detail. Because as you can see, going into 1 p.m., 2 p.m., Thursday afternoon, you see a lot of ice and also a lot of snow to just to the west of that. And then that ice extends to Oklahoma City. It extends to Missouri going into the new year of 2020. And you see that the ice goes to northern Missouri, it goes to Illinois, it goes to Indiana, and this is just going to affect a lot of people and a lot of ice accumulation. Because you see just to the south of it, you see the yellows, you see the reds, which represent heavy rainfall and heavy thunderstorm activity. And that rainfall will eventually change over to freezing rain, and that freezing rain could drop hard and could accumulate at a very fast rate and could cause major havoc on the roads. And then we see that ice continues into the northeast, more specifically the interior portions, maybe the higher elevations. And there could be that possibility that this extends to northern New Jersey or the New York City metropolitan area if just enough cold air in the lower levels filters in to New Jersey or New York City metropolitan area. At this point, it's still an unlikely chance. A more likely scenario is that we see more warm air filter in right around the New York City metropolitan area to keep it from to keep the rain from freezing on the surface. However, there's still that possibility, and I want to point that out. And then that ice extends further northward to the northeast, as we still see the pinks as far north as the Adirondack Mountains of New York. So obviously this will be a major ice threat. I want you guys to stay prepared. Be prepared for power outages, especially throughout the Midwest headed into the new year, because that could be a potentially major threat for a lot of you guys and could take the power out. So make sure you're prepared in case of a power outage ahead in your location, because it's very likely to happen in especially in Missouri and a lot of Midwest states. And also the other threat is heavy rain, where if we take a look again at the Futurecast radar, we're going to see heavy rain, heavy thunderstorm activity, and especially since the storm is going to move very slowly, it's going to dump a lot more rain than you typically see. So you see the rain, the thunderstorm activity is just going to be widespread throughout Louisiana. And I want you guys to keep that in mind, especially in Arkansas, where there's going to be a little bit more convection and a little bit more precipitation in Arkansas to allow a lot more higher rainfall rates throughout Arkansas. And it's going to move very slowly, so you could see experience flooding from this storm. And beyond 5 days from now, and beyond this snowstorm, we also have to keep in track of this low pressure system moving up the east coast, which could dump some snow in the interior northeast. But outside of that, it should mainly be quiet for most of the United States. We might see snow in the Northwest Pacific going into 5 days from now, but it's typical at this point. So it might be a good skiing weekend heading into New Year. And I guess that's about it, guys. I thank you guys for watching. Make sure to subscribe if you want to see more weather-related content. Make sure to like if you like this video. And I hope you guys have a good day, a good night, or a good afternoon whenever you're watching this.